Greetings, BookTube. Welcome back to the History Shelf. I am your host, Peg. It's been a while since my last video, and I do apologize. As many of you might know, we are in the process, or hope to be in the process, of moving. It's been stressful. It's been time-consuming. I've been trying to keep up on my reading and writing, and but wow, it's an adventure. But I've missed you guys, and I've gotten books in the mail. I've gotten books from publishers that I want to highlight for you. And I just want to get some content up for you guys in the midst of all of this chaos. We'll see. I might have an update next week. I think next week I'll have some answers as to whether we're staying for a little while or we're leaving. So, woo! It's been a ride. But I just, it's been probably over 2 weeks since my last video. Feels like. Anyway, so you see my background's a little different because I've moved the room around in order to show the place, and with good results, I think. So, yeah, this will be my background for, we'll see how long. But anyway, so I've gotten some new books in the mail. I'm going to start with one that I've already read and reviewed. For shelf awareness, but they sent me a finished copy, which was great. It's from Other Press, and I will link my written review down below in the comment section, or in the comment section. But yeah, I recently, a couple of months ago, I guess, but this is I Was a French Muslim: Memories of an Algerian Freedom Fighter by Mokhtar Moktefi. It's put out by Other Press, as I said. And I wrote a review, but this is about, I'll just read you the description. I don't want to kind of give you, would encourage you to check out my written review if you're interested. But it says here, the son of a butcher and the youngest of 6 siblings, Mokhtar Moktefi was born in 1935 and grew up in a village de colonisation, it's a French term, or a colonized village, roughly 100 kilometers south of the capital of Algiers. Thanks to the efforts of a supportive teacher, he became the only child in the family to progress to high school, attending a French lycée that deepened his belief in the need for independence. In 1957, at age 22, he joined the National Liberation Army, the armed wing of the National Liberation Front, which had been waging war against France since 1954. After completing rigorous training in radio transmissions at a military base in Morocco, he went on to become an officer in the infamous Ministère de l'Armement et... I am bad at French pronunciations, so I can't say it. It's the precursor of post-independence Algeria's military security, in other words. Moktefi's powerful memoir bears witness to the extraordinary men and women who fought for Algerian independence against a colonial regime that viewed non-Europeans as fundamentally inferior, designating them not as French citizens, but as French Muslims. He presents a nuanced, intelligent, and deeply personal perspective on Algeria's transition to independent statehood with all its inherent opportunities and pitfalls. So this is the finished copy. I had reviewed it in an advanced copy. So I'm happy to have it. I enjoyed it. I can say that overall. I mean, I encourage you to read my review at Shelf Awareness, but that's one of the ones that came in the past several weeks. It's just been crazy. Trying to get ready for, just got a text from my realtor. Okay, this is what I'm saying. Plus just trying to work. It's been insanity. Okay. This I had requested. Yale University Press reached out to me. I'm sorry, my microphone is moving a lot on its own, and I don't like that. Let me see if I can tighten it. Oh, here we go. Oh, nope, that's not doing. Wait. Okay, that's as good as it's going to get. So Yale University Press reached out to me a while ago to see if I'd be interested in this new release that just recently released. Well, actually, no, it's coming out October 26th. Very close, but I got the finished copy. I've read this man's works before. He's a French philosopher. I don't say philosopher, but he kind of writes essays on the the current zeitgeist and such. But this is Bernard Henry Levy, The Will to See. This is Dispatches from a World of Misery and Hope. Look at that cover. Okay. Again, a Yale University Press release. I'll give you a little snippet of this. Yeah, Bernard Henry Levy is a French philosopher, so I was right, activist, filmmaker, and author of many books, including New York Times bestseller, The Empire and the Five Kings, American Vertigo, and Who Killed Daniel Pearl. Now, I think I read the first and the last one. Over the past 50 years, Levy has reported extensively on human rights abuses around the world. The Will to See is the culmination of Levy's reporting trips throughout the coronavirus pandemic. In a deeply personal introduction, Levy recounts the intellectual journey that led him to this life of global reporting and advocacy, arguing that a truly humanist philosophy must necessarily lead to action in defense of the most vulnerable. In the book's second section, Levy reports on 8 international hotspots that have escaped sustained global attention or active response. Nigeria, where thousands of Christians are being massacred by Fulani tribes. Syrian and Iraqi Kurdistan, where Levy has been among the very few to return and report since the Turkish invasion of 2019. Over here, Ukraine, where Levy followed the 400-kilometer front line between Mariupol and Luhansk and was embedded with the Ukrainian special forces engaged in armed conflict against the pro-Russian separatists since the 2014 Maidan revolution. Somalia, and its law-deprived city of Mogadishu, where few have been entered in the past decade. Bangladesh, where Levy returned for the 50th anniversary of the country's independence and was honored as Veteran Levy for his early days of activism in their liberation movement of the 1970s. Greece, where Levy traveled to Moria, Europe's largest refugee camp on the island of Lesbos, and met with refugees suffering in misery at the gates of Europe. Libya, where Levy traveled in July 2020 for his first visit following the fall of Muammar Gaddafi, and returned to Misrata and Torhuna to bear witness at the site of the killing fields and mass graves, only to have his car attacked. And finally, Afghanistan, on the eve of the Taliban takeover, for a meaningful visit to the Panjshir Valley to see Ahmad Massoud, the son of Commander Ahmad Shah Massoud. And now young Ahmad is preparing his resistance against the Taliban in the wake of the recent U.S. withdrawal. During the time that Levy was reporting and writing The Will to See, the pandemic hit. Suffering deepened, borders shut down, and people retreated and insulated themselves in fear. There were marked upticks in economic inequality and hunger. Racial injustice was inflamed. Barriers to education rose, and both abroad and in the West, authoritarian leaders moved to manipulate these conditions to their own advantages. Fascinating. With this book, Levy challenges people to wake up and to revive the common bond of internationalism and humanity, which were once a guiding moral light. Amid the global pandemic, waves of isolationism have closed in on the United States and Europe at a time when solidarity and multilateralism are more essential than ever. Part manifesto, part missives. From the field, The Will to See is a stirring rebuke to indifference and an exhortation to level our gaze at those most hidden from us. So, sorry, I wanted to read all of that because it's very fascinating. I'm always interested in geopolitics, and I'm always interested in reporting from, the hotspots around the world and what's going on in those areas. So it's a small little volume, but I think it's going to pack a punch. So this comes out October 26th from Yale University Press, The Will to See. All right, I'm looking forward to this one. Okay. I'm going to say, I have a couple of fiction here, but I'm going to save them for last. Yeah, those will go here. Okay. So this is an advanced reader copy of a book that I think is probably already out. It is not. It comes out next month, November 23rd. This is from St. Martin's Press, the great folks at St. Martin's Press. This is the Churchill Sisters, The Extraordinary Lives of Winston and Clementine's Daughters by Rachel Trethewey. So, November 23rd. Let's see here. I'll try to read you a little snippet. As complex in their own way as their Mitford cousins, Winston and Clementine Churchill's daughters, there they are, each had a unique relationship with their famous father. Rachel Trethewey's biography, The Churchill Sisters, tells their story. Bright, attractive, and well-connected, in any other family the Churchill girls, Diana, Sarah, Marigold, and Mary, would have shown. But they were not in another family, they were Churchills, and neither they nor anyone else could ever forget it. From their father, the greatest Englishman, that's in quotes, to their brother, Golden Boy Randolph, to their eccentric and exciting cousins, the Mitford girls, they were surrounded by a clan of larger-than-life characters, which often saw them overlooked. Get them. There we go. While Marigold died too young to achieve her potential, the other daughters lived lives full of passion, drama, and tragedy. So this must be Diana, Sarah, and Mary here. Diana, intense and diffident. Sarah, glamorous and stubborn. Mary, dependable yet determined. Each so different, but each imbued with a sense of responsibility toward each other and their country. Far from being cosseted debutantes, these women were eyewitnesses at some of the most important events in world history, at Tehran, Yalta, and Potsdam. Yet this is not a story set on the battlefield or in Parliament. It is an intimate saga that sheds light on the complex dynamics of family set against the backdrop of a tumultuous century. Drawing on previously unpublished family letters from the Churchill archives, the Churchill Sisters brings Winston's daughters out of the shadows and tells their remarkable stories for the first time. I love books like this. It makes me think of Victoria's Daughters. Well, I don't think it was A.N. Wilson who wrote it, but it was someone else who really has a feel for that type of writing. But I loved reading about Queen Victoria's daughters. And so you just kind of, like, each one had their own, obviously, they're people. They have their own personalities, their own experiences. And, I don't really know much of anything about the Churchill daughters. I knew about Randolph Churchill, but, the daughters just kind of receded into, the mists of history until now we've got Rachel Trethewey, who's going to shine a light. So this one's going to be a good one. This one's going to be a good one, folks. So again, Churchill Sisters, and this comes out November 23rd from St. Martin's Press. So add it to your TBR if you're interested. I am. Okay. I'm very excited to have this book because I recently picked up, or I think they sent it to me, a massive one-volume history on Poland by Patrice M. Dabrowski. Well, little did I know that she already has a new, well, not already, because she wrote Poland a while ago, I think, but several years ago. But she has a new book coming out, and I was just jumped at the chance to also check this one out. And this is coming from Northern Illinois University Press. And this is The Carpathians, Discovering the Highlands of Poland and Ukraine by Patrice M. Dabrowski. And NIU Press, Northern Illinois University Press. Let me give you a little. So this one's already out if you're interested. In The Carpathians, Patrice Dabrowski narrates how 3 highland ranges of the mountain system found in present-day Poland, Slovakia, and Ukraine were discovered for a broader regional public. This is a story of how the Tatras, Eastern Carpathians, and Biskadi Mountains went from being terra incognita to becoming the popular tourist destinations they are today. It is a story of the encounter of Polish and Ukrainian lowlanders with the wild, sublime highlands and with the indigenous highlanders, Goral, Hutsuls, Boykos, and Lemkos, and how these people were incorporated into a national narrative as the territories were transformed into a native national landscape. The set of microhistories in this book occur from about 1860. Okay, hang on, let me turn this off. Occur from about 1860 to 1980, a time in which nations and states concerned themselves with the frontier at the edge. Discoverers not only became enthralled with what were perceived as their own highlands, but also availed themselves of the mountains as places to work out answers to the burning questions of the day. Each discovery led to a surge in mountain tourism and interest in the mountains and their indigenous highlanders. Although these mountains essentially a continuation of the Alps, are Central and Eastern Europe's most prominent physical feature. Politically, they are peripheral. The Carpathians is the first book to deal with the northern slopes in such a way, showing how these discoveries had a direct impact on the various nation building, state building, and modernization projects. Dabrowski's history incorporates a unique blend of environmental history, borderland studies, and the history of tourism and leisure. So fascinating. I'm looking forward to this. Again, from Northern Illinois University Press. All right, let me go ahead and do this. I'm trying to get used to this new setup. Okay, then we have a book that I requested. I was very happy to receive because it kind of, it's just been kind of following up on a lot of the different books I've been reading currently, whether buddy reads or book reviewing, just about white supremacy at the time of the Civil War, Lincoln. It all kind of fits into that oeuvre, if you will. But this is from Johns Hopkins Press. And this is a brand new. Let me get the pub sheet out here. This came out not too long ago, September 7th. So it's a brand new book. Check this one out, guys. This is America's Original Sin. White Supremacy, John Wilkes Booth, and the Lincoln Assassination by John Rodehamel. I think Bill Rutenberg might be very interested in this, as well as a couple of other folks out there. Patrice, I think. My friend Patrice on Buddy Reads. I think she would like that. So let's take a look at this. And I had already kind of reviewed this myself, and I really agree with the premise. If you know a lot about the run-up to the assassination and the things that John Wilkes Booth was talking about, it shouldn't be a hard argument to make. Let's read this. On April 14th, 1865, after nearly a year of conspiring, John Wilkes Booth shot Abraham Lincoln as the president watched a production of Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater. We all know that, right? Lincoln died the next morning. 12 days later, Booth himself was fatally shot by a Union soldier after an extensive manhunt. The basic outline of the story is well known even to school children. What has been obscured is Booth's motivation for the act, which remains widely misunderstood nearly 160 years after the shot from his pocket pistol echoed through the crowded theater. In this riveting new book, John Rodehamel argues that Booth's primary motivation for his heinous crime was a growing commitment to white supremacy. In alternating chapters, Original Sin shows how, as Lincoln's commitment to emancipation and racial equality grew, so too did Booth's rage and hatred for Lincoln, whom he referred to as King Abraham Africanus I. Examining Booth's early life in Maryland, Rodehamel traces the evolution of his racial hatred from his youthful embrace of white supremacy through to his final act of murder. Along the way, he considers and discards other potential motivations for Booth's act, such as mental illness or persistent drunkenness, which are all, Rodehamel writes, either insufficient to explain Booth's actions or were excuses made after the fact by those who sympathized with him. Focusing on how white supremacy brought about the Civil War and later betrayed the conflict's emancipationist legacy, Rodehamel's masterful narrative makes this old story seem new again. The first book to explicitly name white supremacy as the motivation for Lincoln's assassination, America's Original Sin, is an important and eloquent look at one of the most notorious episodes in American history. So, a fantastic new entry into the field of late Civil War studies, assassination studies, just cultural, the culture at the time that was fostering this white supremacy that would eventually bring about the downfall of Reconstruction. There goes my camera. It's glitching. But I think this is going to be an important new book. And I like that it explicitly states what we all know to be true. Anyone who's read about the period in detail, and particularly about Booth, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. It's not a controversial argument in my mind at all. So, we've got some illustration photos throughout. So, fantastic new book from Johns Hopkins Press, University Press, America's Original Sin. So check that out. That one's already out. I'm sure you can find that on Amazon or wherever Fine books are sold. All right, what next? Oh, okay, we're getting down there. So this is a brand new book that I was contacted about, and I said I'd be happy to take a look at this. You know, I'm interested in military studies, and I'm also interested very much in the women's role in American military. And this is a particular one that looks at a very specific, narrow time frame. So this is put up by the great folks at the University of North Carolina Press. Love their work, love their output. This is Her Cold War, Women in the U.S. Military, 1945 to 1980, by Tanya L. Roth. It's a great cover, too. As you know, I was in the military, so it's close to my heart. I'm very proud to have worn uniform and to have served my country. Sorry about that. My finger hit the spacebar on the keyboard, and apparently that's all it takes to stop the recording. All right, so let's read about Her Cold War. I think I have it. Okay, here we go. While Rosie the Riveter had fewer paid employment options after being told to cede her job to returning World War II veterans, her sisters and daughters found new work opportunities in national defense. The 1948 Women's Armed Services Integration Act created permanent military positions for women with the promise of equal pay. Her Cold War follows the experiences of women in the military from the passage of the act to the early 1980s. In the late 1940s, defense officials structured women's military roles on the basis of perceived gender differences. Classified as non-combatants, servicewomen filled roles that they might hold in civilian life, such as secretarial or medical support positions. Defense officials also prohibited pregnant women and mothers from remaining in the military and encouraged many women to leave upon marriage. Before civilian feminists took up similar issues in the 1970s, many servicewomen called for a broader definition of equality free of gender-based service restrictions. Tanya Roth shows us that the battles these servicewomen fought for equality paved the way for women in combat, a prerequisite for promotion to many leadership positions, and opened opportunities for other service people, including those with disabilities, LGBT and gender nonconforming people, non-citizens, and more. So again, let's see here. University of North Carolina Press. A little bit about the author down there. So thank you to UNC Press. Happy to have it and kind of read up on my history as a woman in the military. So thank you. And during a time frame, I mean, it ends at 1980. In 1980, I was 8. Whoops, I just gave away my age. Well, whatever. Okay, so the next book I got is from the great folks. Again, there's so many great folks out there, great publishers. Naval Institute Press. And it's a brand new book. This is called Clash of the Capital Ships, From the Yorkshire Raid to Jutland, by Eric Dorn Brose. Nice naked hardcover, you know. I just eat this stuff up. All right, so this says here, the Battle of Jutland, May 31st to June 1st, 1916, pitted Great Britain and Imperial Germany, the two largest fleets of World War I at the time, against one another for the first time. At the time, it was the largest clash of capital ships in the history of modern naval warfare. Arguably, the outcome of World War I was at stake. Focusing on the many fine studies of naval encounters in the North Sea and the primary sources that appeared as the centennial of this clash approached, Eric Dorn Brose seized an opportunity to re-examine Jutland, its prehistory, and the aftermath. Considering new scholarship within the context of extant literature, the author reveals why each side claimed a victory that belonged to Britain and its cautious admiral, Sir John Jellicoe, by examining the key roles naval and political leaders in Germany and Great Britain played during the fight. With an awareness of previous research and a lively, fresh approach, Brose provides a concise history of the Jutland clash and the era of naval combat itself. Okay, so fascinating. Eric Dorn Brose, let's see who our author is, completed graduate and postgraduate degrees at Miami University in Ohio and Ohio State University. He's a professor at Drexel University, where he was awarded special emeritus status upon retirement in 2015. All right. There's also an ebook edition available if you guys are interested, if anyone likes the ebook editions. We've got tons of illustrations and photographs. Mostly photographs. I love this old stuff. Oh, fascinating. Let's see if they can get a picture of Sir John Jellicoe here. Here he is, down at the bottom. Here? There's Churchill. I've always been fascinated by the Battle of Jutland. And then so much of the controversy afterwards, you know, and Jellicoe really got his butt reamed, basically. I mean, he had to really defend what happened there. Got some battle photos here. Wow. Ugh. Lost some ships, that's for sure. So Clash of the Capital Ships by Naval Institute Press, brand new. Check that one out. So all my naval history buffs out there. Still gonna hold off on the fiction for a little bit. Okay, so I got a couple more great new books. So let's go with this one first. Oxford University Press. I requested this one because I'm kind of doing a lot of reading on, not a lot, but I'm trying to, I've got a book going right now that I'm reading about China and how its role in the pandemic. But I've been wanting to get a book that really talks about what I've always considered China's approach to international affairs, which has been, which is the title of this book. But I've known for years that a lot of people in power don't seem to understand is that, you know, China's playing a long game, a very long game. They have a very long history, and they're patient. They, you know, they're building things together to you know, kind of be a world leader, and yeah, you see it happening. But this book took that title. You know, it's called The Long Game, and this is by Rush Doshi, and its subtitle is China's Grand Strategy to Displace American Order. It's Oxford University Press. This came out this year, I think, just last month or so, maybe a couple months ago. But soon, oh, look at these footnotes, are fantastic. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, I really need to get this into my my reading regimen. So it says here, for more than a century, no U.S. adversary or coalition of adversaries, not Nazi Germany, Imperial Japan, or the Soviet Union, has ever reached 60% of U.S. GDP. China is the sole exception, and it is fast emerging into a global superpower that could rival, if not eclipse, the U.S. What does China want? Does it have a grand strategy to achieve it? And what should the United States do about it? In the long game, Rush Doshi draws from a rich base of Chinese primary sources, including decades' worth of party documents, leaked materials, memoirs by party leaders, and a careful analysis of China's conduct to provide a history of China's grand strategy since the end of the Cold War. Taking readers behind the party's closed doors, he uncovers Beijing's long, methodical game to displace America from its hegemonic position in both the East Asia regional and global orders through three sequential, quote, strategies of displacement, end quote. Beginning in the 1980s, China focused for 2 decades on hiding, quote, on hiding capabilities and biding time, end quote. After the 2008 global financial crisis, it became more assertive regionally, following a policy of actually accomplishing something. Finally, in the aftermath populist elections of 2016, China shifted to an even more aggressive strategy for undermining U.S. hegemony, adopting the phrase, quote, great changes unseen in a century, end quote. After charting how China's long game has evolved, Doshi offers a comprehensive yet asymmetric plan for an effective U.S. response. Ironically, his proposed approach takes a page from Beijing's own strategic playbook to undermine China's ambitions and strengthen American order without competing dollar for dollar, ship for ship, loan for loan. A bold assessment of what the Chinese government's true foreign policy objectives are, the long game offers valuable insight into the most important rivalry in world politics. So Rush Doshi is the founding director of the Brookings China Strategy Initiative. And let's see here, his research and his writings have appeared in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, Foreign Affairs, International Organization. He's just got Look at that curriculum vitae. So I think a very authoritative book on this topic, and I'm very excited to, again, to get this into my rotation sooner rather than later. Again, I'll know next week if things are going to get calmer or if things are going to get crazier. So we'll see. So thank you, Oxford University Press, and I will report back on that as soon as possible. The next book is from Viking. This came out recently. I don't have the pub sheet with me here, but this kind of follows on the heels of the book that I picked up, Peril, by Bob Woodward and Costas. I can't remember the guy's name. It might be Bob Costas. No, not Bob Costas. He's the sports guy, but is Woodward and Costa, I think. So I have Peril, and then this one I think will make another good companion read, and this is put up by Viking, and this is Reign of Terror, How the 9/11 Era Destabilized America and Produced Trump, by Spencer Ackerman. So I'm sure you can find this one at your library right now, or Amazon, or wherever else that you shop. This is an examination of the profound impact that the war on terror had in pushing American politics and society in an authoritarian direction. For an entire generation, at home and abroad, the United States has waged an endless conflict known as the War on Terror. In addition to multiple ground wars, the era pioneered drone strikes and industrial-scale digital surveillance, weakened the rule of law through indefinite detentions, sanctioned torture, and manipulated the truth about it all. These conflicts have yielded neither peace nor victory, but they have transformed America. What began as the persecution of Muslims and immigrants has become a normalized feature of American politics and national security, expanding the possibilities for applying similar or worse measures against other targets at home, as the summer of 2020 showed. A politically divided and economically destabilized country turned the war on terror into a cultural and then a tribal struggle. It began on the ideological frontiers of the Republican Party before expanding to conquer the GOP, often with the acquiescence of the Democratic Party. Today's nativist resurgence walked through a door opened by the 9/11 era. That door remains open. Reign of Terror tells the story of how these developments created an opportunity for American authoritarianism and gave rise to Donald Trump. It shows that Barack Obama squandered an opportunity to dismantle the war on terror after killing Osama bin Laden. By the end of his tenure, the war had metastasized into a bitter, broader cultural struggle in search of a demagogue like Trump to lead it. Reign of Terror is a path-breaking and definitive union of journalism and intellectual history, with the power to transform how America understands its national security policies and their catastrophic impact on civic life. So this is bound to be a little bit maybe controversial. I don't know. We'll see how he lays out the argument. It's copiously footnoted. So that's good. But Spencer Ackerman has been a national security correspondent for places like, well, mostly left-wing outlets. So let's see if he can be balanced here. The New Republic, Wired, The Guardian, and the Daily Beast for nearly the entire war on terror. Okay, I cannot hit the pause button again here. But you know, I'm open-minded. I can read about anything, and I'll come to my own conclusions. But yeah, let's see what he has to say about 9/11 creating this rise in authoritarianism that we've recently seen in this country, and hopefully we'll never see again. But I don't know. I'm not that hopeful. So thank you to Viking. I'm going to check that one out. And final nonfiction history book that I have to show you is a brand new book put out by LSU Press. Again, I've sang their praises before about their Civil War releases, their original work, their original research and scholarship on, big issues in the Civil War, but a lot of smaller stuff too, which I really appreciate. And this is a brand new book that includes, well, it's edited by one of my leading Civil War historian guys that I enjoy, Gary Gallagher. So I wanted to share this with you. This is Civil War Witnesses and their books, New Perspectives on Iconic Works. And this is edited by Gary W. Gallagher and Stephen Cushman. Nice naked hardcover, LSU Press. Let me give you the rundown on this. Civil War Witnesses and Their Books, New Perspectives on Iconic Work, serves as a wide-ranging analysis of texts written by individuals who experienced the American Civil War. Edited by Gary Gallagher and Stephen Cushman, this volume, like its companion, Civil War Writing, New Perspectives on Iconic Texts, which was put out in 2019, features the voices of authors who felt compelled to convey their stories for a variety of reasons. Some produced works intended primarily for their peers, while others were concerned with how future generations would judge their wartime actions. One diarist penned her entries with no thought that they would later become available to the public. The essayists explore the work of 5 men and 3 women, including prominent Union and Confederate generals, the wives of a headline-seeking U.S. cavalry commander, and a Democratic judge from New York City, a member of Robert E. Lee's staff, a Union artillerist, a matron from Richmond's sprawling Chimborazo Hospital, and a leading abolitionist U.S. senator. This book shows how some of those who lived through the conflict attempted to assess its importance and frame it for later generations. Their voices have particular resonance today and underscore how rival memory traditions stir passion and controversy, providing essential testimony for anyone seeking to understand the nation's greatest trial and its aftermath. I'm probably going to want to pick up the other book too, the one that came out before this, the companion volume. But I already kind of went through the chapters a bit, and I was extremely excited to see, like, the opening chapter after the introduction focuses on one of the Confederates that I have always kind of followed with a, not a fondness, but I think a sympathy in a sense. Not for why he was fighting for the Confederacy, but just his role within the Confederate Army and how he was just chastised by his own former brothers in arms for his political views. He was a friend of Grant's. He did not think the charge at Gettysburg should have happened. You all know who I'm talking about. We're talking about James Longstreet. I think if you have to have a favorite among the Confederates, generals or whatnot, or someone who you find the most intriguing, to me it's James Longstreet. And he's got the first opening chapter. And here's a photo I have never seen of him. And I have seen almost every photograph of every general because I have been reading about this all my life. I have not seen this photo of James Longstreet. Look at him. It's James Longstreet on his porch in Gainesville, Georgia in 1894. He had signed the contract to write his memoirs the previous year. Look at that, 1894. And he wrote from Manassas to Appomattox. So it talks about his memoirs and the limits of Confederate reconciliation. So I just wanted to read you like the first opening paragraph to show you this, the kind of writing that really just grabs me. Also, just how fascinating this person is, and how the revisionists, the lost cause generals, just vilified him. It says here, I am not sorry that I write of the war 30 years after its close instead of 10 or 20, James Longstreet proclaimed in 1896 in the preface to his memoir From Manassas to Appomattox. I believe that now, more fully than then, the public is ready to receive, in the spirit in which it is written, the story which I present. In choosing these words to frame his 690-page account of the Civil War, Longstreet sought a final vindication in the protracted conflict, pitting him against ex-Confederate defenders of the lost cause over his wartime record. Longstreet's reference to the passing of the decades was no mere literary boilerplate, but a guide to how that war of words had unfolded. The mid-1870s and mid-1880s had been flashpoints in the contest over Longstreet's reputation, moments at which his own public pronouncements in the forms of articles, letters, speeches, and interviews had drawn a swift backlash, leaving him determined to tell the full story of his wartime experiences and to set the record straight. So I just wanted to keep on reading. If I didn't have deadlines for some of the things, I would just keep going. But I'm excited to have this. I'm excited to start this. And if anything, I'd like to report back on that whole chapter on James Longstreet. If anyone else is interested in books on James Longstreet, General Longstreet, is it Jeffrey Wirt? No, it's Lee's Tarnished Lieutenant. I can't believe I can't remember the. I'll find this for you right now. But I highly recommend Lee's Tarnished Lieutenant. It is a fantastic book. I read it at least twice ages ago, and I want to read it again. This was written by William Garrett Piston. Okay, so it's not who I thought it was who had written it. You can find it on Amazon, and you can even get a used copy for pretty cheap. But Lee's Tarnished Lieutenant is subtitled James Longstreet and His Place in Southern History. It's a fascinating study. Anyway, so but this whole book is just replete with these type of chapters. George McClellan, Phoebe Yates. But the James Longstreet chapter to me is just like, woo! So thank you, LSU Press. I am looking forward to reading this and reporting back on this. Yeah, so check this one out. This is probably going to be an hour video. I'm going to condense the two snippets, the two videos. Sorry for the length, but I'm hoping you all stay for the length of the video because I don't know when I can make another one. I'm going to try. I've got a lot going on, obviously. I want to thank the folks at Penguin Random House. They reached out and said, would you be interested in this? And I was like, you know what? Who doesn't love a Penguin classic? Okay, and this is a Penguin classic. It's brand new for their series. And this is the Penguin Book of Dragons. Look at this. It's beautiful, brand new. It's just out now. It says here, 2,000 years of legend and lore about the menace and majesty of dragons, which have breathed fire into our imaginations, from ancient Rome to Game of Thrones. The most popular mythological creatures in the human imagination, dragons have provoked fear and fascination for their lethal venom and crushing coils, and as avatars of the Antichrist, servants of Satan, couriers of the damned to hell, portents of disaster, and harbingers of the last days. Here are accounts spanning millennia and continents, including their origins in the deserts of Africa, their struggles with their mortal enemies, elephants, in the jungles of South Asia, their fear of lightning, the dragon and Beowulf who inspired Smaug. I like pronouncing it Smaug. Smaug in Tolkien's The Hobbit, the supernatural feathered serpent of ancient Mesoamerica, and a flatulent dragon the size of the Trojan horse. From the dark halls of the Lonely Mountain to the blue skies of Westeros, we expect dragons to be gigantic reptilian predators with massive bat-like wings who wreak havoc defending the gold they have hoarded. But dragons are full of surprises, as is this book. So this is a brand new Penguin classic. So if you collect them, you want to add this to it. I like the fact, I think they reached out to me with this because there is many different essays here that are like historical. There's a whole chapter on satanic serpents, dragons and saints in early Christianity. You know, and I love reading early Christian history. Of course, literature talks about Virgil's Aeneid, you know, where the dragons showed up, and like Pliny the Elder's natural history, Apollodorus's The Library, you know, the Hydra of Lerna, Medusa, Mother of Monsters from Lucan's Pharsalia. So there's a lot here that appeals to me. Just a lot of history here, a lot of history and literature. So thank you, Penguin. I am happy to share this, and I'm going to post, I think, this on my Instagram channel as well, so you guys can take a look at this. Okay, and then let's see here. This is a brand new novel, but oh, here we go. This is an advanced copy. Well, this is not actually coming out until next year. So maybe I'll hold off on this one. Yeah, I might hold off on this one just because it's coming so next year. Wait, and then this one is also coming out next year, February of 2022. But you know what? I'm going to show it anyway because I'm so excited by it. This is by, I think last year's, well, the winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature. I think it was last year. They're calling this her magnum opus, and I thought I was going to review this for Historical Novels Review, but I lost out in someone else got the requested it before I did, so I didn't get it, but they were still kind enough to send me a advanced review copy. So I want to thank the folks at Riverhead Books for sending this to me, along with a really nicely bound media kit. But this is The Books of Jacob by Olga Tokarzok. I apologize. Olga Tokarzok. Okay. I had to think for a moment and just sound it out in my head. So Olga Tokarzok. The Books of Jacob. This thing is massive, you guys. It's coming out February 1st. Yes, this is a biggie. Let's see here. How can I even describe this novel? You know, I'm just going to read the brief synopsis on the back. So, in the mid-18th century, as a new unrest begins to sweep Europe, a young Jew of mysterious origins arrives in a village in Poland. Visited by what seem to be ecstatic experiences, Jacob Frank, and this is based on a real person. This is why I was really interested in this. It's like, to me, a work of historical fiction. Jacob Frank casts a charismatic spell. In the decade to come, he and his increasingly fervent followers will crisscross the Habsburg and Ottoman empires as he reinvents himself again and again, converts to Islam and then to Catholicism, is pilloried as a heretic one moment, hailed as the Messiah the next, all amid rumors of his sect's secret rituals and radical beliefs. The story of Frank, a real historical figure around whom mystery and controversy swirl to this day, is an ideal canvas for Olga Tokarzok's genius and unparalleled reach. Narrated through the perspectives of his contemporaries, those who revere him, those who revile him, the friend who betrays him, the lone woman who sees him for what he is, the Books of Jacob captures a world on the cusp of precipitous change in search of certainty and longing for transcendence. So this looks like a book to get lost in this winter. That's all I'm going to say. I'm very excited. I'm very excited. And I think I know a lot of you out there are going to be, it's even got illustrations in here and drawings, will be really drawn to this story. Now, I think she won the Nobel Prize for the book, something about, what is it? Something about dragging a plow over the bones or something like that. Sorry, it should say this. Hello. Oh my God, I can't believe it's not here. Out of this whole media kit, where is the name of her previous novel? But this is like a 900-page book, and they're calling it her magnum opus, right? They even have an interview with her. It's a really neat media kit. It has an interview with her. It has a synopsis. So I'm going to keep this, obviously, as a reference. But before I go, guys, sorry, thanks for hanging out. It's the other book, and so this is a work in translation, obviously. The book she won the Nobel Prize for was Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. All right, so I have not read that one, but who knows? I mean, if I like this one, I'll probably do that. Okay, so this is a very long video, but I had a lot to show you. And so let me know what you think of these books. Thanks for sticking with me, you guys. I will try to make more content as I have time and energy. But I will give you an update soon on you know, where we're going. But the channel is strong as ever. I've gotten more subscribers. I don't know why, because I haven't posted a video in a couple weeks. But thanks to everyone, and thanks for your patience. I will be making more content, I promise, as soon as I can. So in the meantime, guys, I hope you're doing well out there. Let me know what you think of these books. And as always, thanks for visiting the History Shelf. We'll talk soon. Bye.